Hey Paul, this is Farah. Welcome to my site. For my blended learning plan, I did Introduction to the Water Cycle. So I was targeting like a sixth grade setting in my classroom. Um, so this is my home page. Now for Unit 1, it's just the water cycle here. So I can read this off for you. This week we'll be learning about the water cycle. It describes the movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the earth. So it's strictly just an introduction. I'm not really going to go into depth with it, but I'll be teaching the students about the different parts of the cycle, crystallization, different types of precipitation. Okay, so I'll be going on to lesson 1 here. I have my water cycle video, which is basically just a short video, just briefly going over the different cycles, the different processes of the water cycle. So we have condensation, evaporation, precipitation, etc. And I, right over here, watch this video first, then I'll move on to the activity. So on to here, we have a water cycle craft activity. And this basically involves the students just making a mini water cycle. I provide a link here at the bottom that'll help them craft their water cycle. It basically just consists of a paper plate, cotton balls, colored pencils, construction paper, marker, glitter, whatever they want to do. But they have to label the cycle clearly in black marker because I really want to assess how well they understand the processes, like where they occur and so forth. So here is here's a video, um, just another brief video, like overview of the water cycle, whatever. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to our quiz. So this quiz on Google Forms it's pretty simple. It's basically everything that I said in the short YouTube video that I made. They're gonna submit this quiz after the video and after they've submitted their activity. Okay. So now we're gonna go on to lesson 2, which just discusses crystallization in the water cycle. So here's another video that I made describing the process of crystallization, steps of forming a crystal, and I also talked about snowflakes because I really wanted them to make the connection of how crystallization is significant in the water cycle. I talked about snowflakes, so that's one of the different forms of precipitation um, that's found in the water cycle. So I talked about that and how crystallizes in the clouds and the atmosphere. Okay, and we have here the snowflake activity. Okay, the students will be making crystal snowflakes using these materials below. I also provided a link for them that just also shows the directions right here. Okay, it's going to look like this. It's like a model for them if they're confused. And then after they do their activity, they're prompted to go to the quiz. This is also on Google Forms. It's pretty simple. This is just a short answer regarding the snowflake activity. So I'm going to click on this right here. And the question is, using what you learned about crystallization, why do you think your snowflake crystal was or was not successful? Now, the key is I want them to explain their steps and the crystallization process. So even if it wasn't successful, I want them to explain their steps. By explaining their steps, they're kind of realizing what it takes to have a successful crystal. So either way, they have to explain the crystallization process. This is something that I really wanted them to take through from the whole activity. So that's done. And we can move on to our third lesson, which is types of precipitation. So I now have here my video. It describes the 4 different types, which is like snow, rain, sleet, hail, whatever. And also, I briefly talk about like different conditions that they form in. After that, we have our activity. So ideally, kids would have their own interactive notebook. I want them to make their own chart stating the 4 different types of precipitation. I want them to draw in their chart. Like, for example, rain, I want them to draw raindrops. If it's snow, I want them to draw snowflakes. Hail, sleet, whatever. This shouldn't take long. The really hard part, I guess, would be to make a rain gauge. Now, I provided in the video, we briefly talked about the rain gauge and the purpose of a rain gauge, so they're already familiar with that. But on here, I want them to click on this link for instructions, and it's just a do-it-yourself rain gauge, super, super simple. But the key here I really want to emphasize is that I want them to measure everything in inches. They're also going to be using this website right here, which is a credible source with actual climate data from the United States, but I want them to kind of like copy this, or I shouldn't say copy, I want them to modify it so it fits our task. So here it's New York. Great. Now I want them to pick a month. So, we have January, February, March, April, May, whatever. Pick a month, and I want them to round it to the nearest tenth. So I want them to fill up their rain gauge. So we have average precipitation in inches. So for example, if I chose January 3.9, I want them to make it a 4.0. And I want them to fill up their rain gauge 4 inches. So they get like a visual of what 4 inches actually looks like in a rain gauge. I think it's still a little abstract, even though when they're in 6th grade. I just think it'd be fun, just to see how much it actually looks in their own rain gauge. So after they complete that activity, there's a quiz. Also on Google Forms, click on this. And we have what are the 4 different types of precipitation, hail, the purpose for the rain gauge, because I really want them to understand the purpose. And talks about each of the 4 forms of precipitation. Okay. After that, there is lesson 4, which is the collaboration project. Now, all of these lessons go hand in hand. So they kind of build on each other. We have an introduction to the water cycle. In the water cycle, we talked about evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Well, during those processes, we have crystallization taking place depending on the weather, like whatever weather it is, the degrees. And then obviously, depending on the weather, which could form crystallization, we have different types of precipitation. So if it's cold out, it's going to be snowing, whatever. Now, for lesson 3, we briefly used the rain gauge. Project 4, we're actually collecting actual rain data from our area. So this is the group assignment. I'm going to be assigning group partners, and they're gonna decide to pick one rain gauge that they made. So now the objective of this assignment is to measure the amount of rain that falls next month. So for example, if I want to do this in March, April, preferably like a rainy month, maybe May, June, whatever. We're going to go out into the field where each of the kids are going to have the flexibility to place their rain gauge wherever they want, but obviously it has to be in a safe place where nobody would mess with it. So if you want to go out into the field, front of the school, in the woods, maybe not too far, obviously, not too deep into the woods, near the football field, whatever. In the meantime, this is going to be like a 1-month activity. We're going to leave the rain gauges out for a month in the fields. And in the meantime, the kids are going to be counting the days it precipitates. So they're going to create a document in their Chromebook, and they're going to share it with their group. So they have to have the technological skills, obviously, to do that. And at the end of each week, we're going to visit our rain gauges, and we're going to check on the progress. We're going to update our chart on our Chromebooks. And this is the climate data we saw in lesson 3. We're seeing it again. Something to refer to. This is how I want their chart to look like in their Chromebooks and their Google Docs, And I really want them to label their charts average precipitation in inches and days with precipitation. So once this whole activity is over, we're going to compare data and I posted a rubric for them. And as a teacher, I really think it's important to provide your students with the rubric so they know what's expected of them. No surprises, you know. So I posted on here the rain data rubric that I really encourage them to look at before submitting their assignment. So this is the rubric I'll be using to grade the collaboration projects. Click on this right here. And boom, here it is. I'm really measuring organization, obviously. I have presenting data, recording data, creativity, measurement, and accuracy. I'm going to have a little section down here. This whole thing is out of 10 points. I have a little section here for comments. Okay, well, thank you. This is my overview of the introduction to the water cycle. And have a great summer. Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.